Hello everybody and welcome to your first of this summer term's videos about our spelling rules. Now throughout this term we've got a bit of a theme for our spelling rules because all of our spelling rules are going to be rules for adding suffixes. Okay, now we'll talk about what suffixes are in a moment, but there are three main rules for adding suffixes which we're going to learn about this term. We've got swap the Y for an I, drop the E, and double the consonant. Okay, those are the key spelling skills that we're going to be learning about this term. Okay, so our rule this week is swapping the Y for an I before a suffix, and the suffixes we'll be doing this with are and est. Okay, so let's start by talking about suffixes. A suffix is a letter or group of letters that goes at the end of a word, and it changes its meaning. So can you think of any suffixes? Well, we're going to be looking first of all at one we've learnt before, and that's the suffix For example, you can change the root word tall to the word taller. You can change the root word kind to the word kinder. What does the suffix do to words? Well, the suffix is sometimes called the comparative. We use it to compare things. For example, I am tall, but Mr. Fenn is taller. So taller means that he is more tall than I am. My friend is kind, but my mum is kinder. This means that my mum is more kind than my friend. So we use the suffix when we're making comparisons. Okay, taller means more tall, kinder means more kind, shorter would mean more short, tastier would mean more tasty, and so on. The suffix est is related to this one a bit, okay? So we can turn the word tall into tallest. We can change the root word kind into kindest. Can you remember what the suffix est does to words? Well, it's sometimes called the superlative, and it means the most. So, for example, you could have the sentence, Mr. Fenn is tall, but Mr. Willie is the tallest. Okay, that means that Mr. Willie is the most tall. Or I could say my mum is the kindest person I know. And that means my mum is the most kind person I know. Okay, so tallest means most tall. Kindest means most kind. Tastiest would mean most tasty. Smelliest would mean most smelly. Okay, so we use suffix for more, taller, more tall. We use suffix est for most. Okay, most tall, most kind, and so on. Now, our key thing this week is this rule, okay? If you've got a root word that ends with a Y, you swap the Y for an I and add the suffix, okay? So let me give you an example of a word we can add the suffix to. We can change the word happy to the word happier, okay? But we can't just add on to the end of it. What we have to do is get rid of the Y at the end, swap it for an I, and then we can add okay, so it's as simple as that. All right, you get the Y, you get rid of it, swap the Y for an I, and then add the suffix So happy is spelled Happy, but happier is spelled Happier. Okay, because we swapped the Y for an I and then added the suffix. Okay, and it goes the same way for adding the suffix est. Okay. So I would swap the Y for an I and then add the suffix, okay? Same with the root words crazy and jolly, okay? You start by swapping the Y for an I and then adding the suffix, okay? So that's our rule. If you've got a root word that ends with the word Y, swap the Y for an I and add the suffix, okay? So your spelling list, I've sent you the root words, okay? Jolly, happy, crazy, nasty, scary, noisy, silly, and friendly, okay? But you don't just need to learn the spellings of the root words. You need to know to swap the Y for an I and add both the suffixes er, and est, est. Okay, so all of these root words end with a Y and we swap the Y for an I and add the suffix.